down to. I will get this not techno stuff, but this technological stuff here soon. Okay. Hi, Darlene. Okay, I was supposed to turn my phone sideways. Now my eyelashes are popping off. Okay, let's see. Okay, Justine. I'm looking for this button that we were talking about. To join you as a guest. Okay, so Darlene, do you see a button on your screen somewhere that says to join me? Oh. Sorry. Oh my Lord. Hi. Oh, you guys are still there. I put my phone down. Okay. So, hang on. Oh my. Oh, wants to be in your video. There she is. Okay. Approve. Sorry. Now my phone is to where like I'm going to be looking sideways this whole time. Okay. I know you guys are already texting my husband to do weird things in the window. So I know it's April Fool's, but we're not doing that, Josh. Okay. Darlene, I hope it's working on your end. Okay. I know, there should be a lot of laughing things on here. Hi!
I had to do it from my phone.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I couldn't do it from my computer, so I'm now on my phone.
Okay, awesome. So
Okay, wait,
I'm one
let's
of
make
those.
sure.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. It's
Hi,
all right.
everybody.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just shutting my computer down. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
I'm just trying to set myself up because my phone's too low. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Will this work?
I'm sitting here now and I'm like, okay, I need to like get a stand or I got to figure out something because now I'm looking, I don't know where to look. Everyone that knows me personally are probably like, what are you doing, Christina? So for those of you who don't know who I am Christina. I am a mother of 4, entrepreneur, just trying to make it through life like everybody else. So I started this project because I wanted to bring motivation and inspiration during the beginning of the week so that hopefully maybe one of you guys will do something different that you didn't do last time or, I'm just wanting to, like I said, bring inspiration and growth. And so today my first person is Darlene Garcia.
Hi,
and
everyone.
She is a certified grief specialist. Is that right?
Grief recovery specialist, yes.
Okay. And so she has an amazing story of hers to share of how she is to overcome her struggles through her grief. And so I'm just going to let you tell your story of who you are and what you do and how you ended up uh, where you are now.
Right. Okay. So, guess my journey started, of course, when I became a widow. And that was about almost 4 years ago. So July will be 4 years. Sorry, everyone. I'm just trying to like find the right spot for me to be on camera, and it's like kind of strange. But anyway, so I became a widow about 4 years ago when my husband died in a tragic motorcycle accident. And I had a tough healing journey ahead, but I did find the grief recovery method about maybe 2 months after he died. And that really took me from a place of darkness and uncertainty, so much fear, really being in a place of not wanting to participate in life, and actually believing that I would never be happy again. And the grief recovery method allowed me to feel, honor, express my feelings in any given moment, and then how to work through it through an action-based program, which I am now certified to teach, and I help others to heal in the same manner that I walk through my own healing journey. So that's kind of how I stumbled upon that journey, or that part of my journey.
Wow, I was online last night looking through your website and reading through your story. So my husband and I have been together for almost 14 years, and I was just like rubbing him and loving him, and I can't imagine how, how crazy that is to, say goodbye just like normal in the morning.
Right.
Hand him your coffee and everything's great, and then everything changes like in a matter of minutes.
Yeah. Right, literally in a split second. Like I was getting ready to head out to go to my orthodontist appointment, and then I get a phone call, that he got into a motorcycle accident. And of course, the thought of him not surviving that never even crossed my mind. Like I just really believed in my heart that he was okay. And even if the accident was serious, that he was still alive. Like that was still what I believed in my heart. And never did I imagine going to a hospital and not even being able to say goodbye to him because he was already gone. So that was like the toughest part, I think, to have to deal with in that moment, and then even my son was the first one to discover that his dad had died because he got to the hospital before me. And It was through him that I knew that my husband had died, because it was that look on his face and the pain in his voice, when he called out to me to get my attention of where he was at. And in that moment,
how old was he?
He's gone. My son was 25. He was 25 at the time.
Young. Yeah. That's still really young.
Right.
To lose your dad like that. Wow. So, how long were you guys married for?
We were married for 24 years. In fact, we had just celebrated our 24-year wedding anniversary in April, and he died in July. So, together since we were 17, married at 19, and just literally together for his entire adult life, right? We learned how to be adults together, and that's an amazing love story in itself. All the trials and tribulations that you go through, right, as a married couple. And then even just trying to make sense of being an adult and learning responsibility, being parents, trying to find your career, right? And, but at the same time, even just losing who you were before that. We were teenagers before that. No responsibilities, right? having so much fun. And then all of that also changes as soon as you have a child. And then now you have someone else to think about in your life, and someone that you're going to influence for the rest of their life, right? And so you've got to make a lot of different changes in how
Yeah.
you approach life, how you do things, how you act, everything. And so, so life changing from the moment we got together up until the moment he died. There was always something that evolved in our life, right? From having one child to two to three. He's from California. He made this huge jump, to move to Guam and to start a family, with me there, knowing that being on an island versus being in a big state can make a huge difference in the way we raised our kids, and that was his choice. I was fine living in
That's
California.
awesome.
And he was like, yeah, no, I think a better place to raise our family would be where you're from, right? More family, a lot smaller, slower paced life, and just something different than what he was raised around. So it was his decision for us to move to Guam and settle there and raise our family. We were in Guam almost the entire time. We probably lived in California for about a year. But other than that, we were in Guam the entire time, and that was his first time ever to Guam. Never even, so he took a huge leap of faith and did it for us, for our love and for our family. And yeah, the rest was history,
Wow. So whenever he was just gone, just like that had to have taken a huge chunk out of you. Because like you said, you guys learned to be adults and you guys were teenagers when you first met. And so that, is majorly life-changing in itself, to lose, like, it is your other half, there's no way else to describe it. It's losing your other half. So for those who
right.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say you're right. I mean, I definitely had an identity crisis for a long time after he died, because I just really felt like I didn't know how to live life without him.
So for someone who I know we've talked about Becky, I don't know where she is today, but if she happens to log on, I will see if I can invite her in. But for someone, going through what you went through maybe this year or just recently, having that love that they've had for so long, and then all of a sudden they're just taken away from them. That's debilitating. Like, you just sit there, I'm sure, of just like missing that person. And so, like, someone like Becky, for example, who's been with her husband for 18 years, and then to lose him after all of that time, how do you get someone to finally rise from something so heavy from that? How can they move forward today so that they can be where you are?
Well, I mean, the first thing to understand is that grief is so unique to each of us, right? And there is no time frame. So, Becky's relationship, as an example, is completely different than my relationship with Frank, and how we heal. And the things that we believed throughout our life also makes a huge difference in our journey as widows, or as grievers. And so I think that it's important for people to know that you shouldn't compare your grief to others, because once we start comparing, then we start to question if our grief is even valid. We start to minimize how we feel. An example of that is when I joined a widow support group. I started to compare, before I even knew what grief recovery was, I started to compare my loss to theirs, because so many of the women had already moved into other relationships, and I was not in that space yet. And I thought that it was very offensive for me at that time. And I really
Yeah.
was like, what? I'm like, I am in the wrong group. This is like the wrong support group. Like I shouldn't even be here. Like I was so blown away, and I was like, I couldn't believe that people could actually do that. You know, but again, my place in my journey was very different from theirs. The other comparison too is comparing, you know, whose grief is worse than others. Like I had a woman that was in my certification class that lost her husband because he was murdered, right? And so if I sat there and compared my husband's motorcycle accident to her husband being murdered, I could have easily minimized my grief and said, you know what, I need to just stop because she's far worse than me. She's got a murdered husband. She doesn't, you know, she's got to go through trial. She's got to go through all these things, like poor lady. And then all of a sudden I start minimizing what I'm feeling, right? So everyone grieves differently. Everybody's grief is unique. We should never compare. The intensity of our grief will definitely be different. But regardless, we all feel our grief at 100%. And it's important to acknowledge that and to be okay in the space that we're in, regardless of what anyone else is going through, right? Regardless.
Right. Well, so if you were to plant a seed in someone who's grieving right now so that they can move on a little bit more. I don't know if I'm even describing it right, but you know, what kind of seed do you want to plant for someone this week to lift them up and maybe think a little bit brighter and, you know, do something more than what they feel like they're capable of?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is to just embrace your grief and know that grief is so normal and natural. It's a part of being a human being, right? It's all about the human emotion that we feel when we suffer from loss. And we were created to feel, right? So why should we disregard or try and minimize or suppress those feelings? Honestly, like that, all that does is it just prolongs the healing process. The other thing is there's so many myths around grief, and I think that that's where a lot of people don't know how to grieve properly, is because they believe in all these myths, and it's global. It's not in any one culture, is what I'm starting to realize through working with clients and just talking with grievers around the world. You know, the first one is that we've got to be strong, right? Or be strong for others. Like for me, I remember, you know, people telling me that I needed to be strong for my grandchildren. They were all really small. Be strong for my kids too, but mostly for the grandkids because they were younger. My kids were all adults. Be strong for his family, for his mom and dad. You know, hold my composure because you come from a family of strong women. And so this is how we deal with things. Like you need to suck it up and just go through everything with that strength, right? Show people that you could do this, right? Or make Frank proud. He's over you now. So you want to make him proud and you don't want to make him be sad that he left you. Like things like that were put in my head to make me believe that I needed to be strong. So the way I did that was I just pretended, right? You have this award-winning recovery sort of behavior that you display in front of everyone because that's the expectation. The other thing is, you know, people think that they shouldn't burden others with how they feel. And so they just want to isolate themselves. But part of that isolation too isn't just about the burden. It's about the fact that no one else understands how you feel. And the moment that you talk to someone that tries to give you advice that doesn't feel good for you, you automatically put your wall up and you just want to just go and be by yourself because you already know the things that people say to you, even though it's not intentional, is hurtful and it's not healthy and it's not helpful at all, right? So I found many moments of being by myself. Like I just knew everything that everybody said to me either pissed me off, made me sadder, hurt my feelings, made me want to just withdraw. I mean, there was nothing good that ever came out of anything that anyone ever said to me. And that is not a lie. Even the people closest to me said the wrong things. I mean, there were moments where I thought I was going to like blow up and just, give them the finger or say all these bad words to them. And it's not their fault. Like all the intention comes from love. It comes from pure compassion, but it also comes from ignorance of not knowing what grief really is. Right. And so again, no fault on their part. And I realize that now. But before I just shut myself out from the whole world because I'm thinking not one single person in this world understands my pain, not even my children. They have their own pain, but they definitely didn't understand what I was going through. Right. And so it was hard for me to share that because people were trying to understand, but they just couldn't. And at some point I was just like, I give up. I'm not even going to try and explain to you guys because you just don't get it. But in my space of grief recovery, now I know they will never get it. No one will ever get how you truly feel inside. So don't ever have an expectation. Right? No, even if they go through it. Right? So even if they go through it, like our grief could be relatable. Remember I was talking about the widows, right? Being in a widow support group, I thought, oh, I'm finally around people who get it because they've been through it. And then when I go into the support group, I'm thinking, nope, they don't get it. Because they're in a different space than I am, right? And so even though you've walked the journey of grief, you have your own story, you have your own emotions. The emotions may be relatable, right? But how I feel versus how you feel, completely different. Completely different. So now I know. And I would never say to someone, I understand how you feel. I would never say that. And when people ask advice, they would come to me and they would say, hey, I have a friend that they lost their son or they lost their husband. Can you give me some, some tools, some advice on how to speak to them? Because it's uncomfortable. Like, I don't know what to say. I said, well, first of all, sometimes not saying anything is better than trying to say something that is not going to help the person, right? But if you want to say something, you can say, I don't understand what you're going through. I can see that you're hurting so much, and I know I can't take that pain away. If it's someone that you're not really close to, saying my sincere condolences is okay. The one thing that I always tell people never to say is, I'm sorry for your loss, because unless you were responsible for that loss, you have no reason to be sorry. Right. And so it's such a common thing to say, but I will tell you that when you are in that space, and someone says, I'm sorry for your loss, like literally, like sometimes the things that want to come out of my mouth is like, why are you sorry? Were you there? Did you cause that accident? Like, why are you telling me you're sorry? And he never understood what that meant until I went through it myself. Right. So I always tell people, please don't say I'm sorry for your loss to anyone that's ever lost someone so deeply, because they will be confused about it or they will get upset about it. But it doesn't resonate with grievers. It just doesn't. And most people, right, will be polite and just say thank you. But in their heart of hearts, they're like, why the hell are you sorry? It just doesn't feel good. So.
And like you were saying,
no, go ahead.
Now that you realize that it was coming from a place of compassion and love, but it's just awkward for us who don't really know how to approach you. We know we love you, but we don't know what to do. So, like, for example, I had a friend go through some really crazy things in her family. Thank goodness it wasn't like, no one passed away, but I didn't want to ask her questions because I knew she was already getting it from all angles. I also know that I couldn't do anything about it, but I do know that I love that person. And so knowing their background, I also know they have a crap ton of kids. So what is one thing I don't want to do when I'm going through anything? I don't want to cook. I don't want to think about anything. So I was just like, you know what? Today, I'm going to I can't take away your pain, but I can take away your hunger. So let me make dinner for you and your kids so that you can just relax and go to your room or do whatever. And so my husband and I made chicken fajitas, chicken tortilla soup, all the sides, and I went and I delivered it to her, and I gave her a hug and just let her know that I'm here if she happens to want to talk about it. But, that's how that's the only thing I could think of to handle a situation like that. Um, but for others who like maybe they're talking to someone who just came back from work, from losing someone or going through a hard time, or whatever the case may be. What should we do when we're in that moment and they're like spilling their heart out to us because they needed to talk at that time or whatever? How do we handle that so that we don't say, sorry for your loss, or say something stupid that we just repeat because we heard other people say it,
Right.
So.
Well, the first thing is let me just say that what you and your husband did was perfect, right? Because that is one of the things that you can do for someone who's grieving is just take action. Because when you ask someone that's grieving, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Our minds are so consumed with all these emotions. We have no freaking clue what you could do for us in that moment.
Yeah.
So honestly, like just cooking for them, like helping them take care of the kids, cleaning up, their house because they're probably not in a right space to do that. Just taking action and doing little things to help them outside of trying to heal their hearts, because you can't do that. They've got to do that on their own, was perfect, right? So know that you guys did an awesome thing for her just by bringing her food. But for someone who is sitting with someone else that is grieving and they're pouring their heart out, I always tell people, just be a heart with ears and no mouth. That means just listen. You don't need to say anything. And if you do need to say something, it's just about acknowledging what they said to you. Acknowledge their pain, right? Tell them I love you, or tell them you're right there with them, sad with them, right? A lot of things too for me. Like I remember sharing stories of my husband. I do that all the time. If you look at my Facebook page, there's every month, especially, like there's always a story that I tell. But when I hear stories from other people that share their experiences with my husband, that is so important to me. Like I love to hear stories from his childhood. I love to hear stories when he was at work and how he influenced people. I just love to hear stories from other people because I wasn't with him 24/7. So when people share their own stories of him, that makes me feel so good. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is I know that Frank is still in their heart and their mind. And that makes me feel good because I know that my husband is still remembered by other people, not just myself, right? The other thing is it warms my heart because then these people are sitting here in this space with me and they get it, right? They get it because they're not trying to fix me. And I know that they're sad. He's a loss to them too, not just me. And it reminds me of that. It reminds me that Frank's death wasn't just my loss. It was the loss of thousands of people because he knew people around the globe, and his death left a void in many people's lives, which is a huge reason why I do what I do, is because I know that in my inner circle, it's helping the people that I love, the people that Frank loved. But at the same time, I'm helping complete strangers around the world to heal just by sharing my own story.
So it's like he's still helping people, even though he's not here, but he's helping people through you. So that's a really awesome way to honor him, and to keep going in his name.
Yeah, I mean, he was just that kind of person in life. He was the kind of person that loved to help people, especially the youth. Like he was so passionate about making sure that if he could influence one teenager, one child, so that they don't end up in the streets, so that they don't end up having bad grades, so that they become successful adults. Like that's what he was passionate about. Because he knew he couldn't really influence adults, right? Once we become adults, we're our own person. But if he can influence children by sharing what he went through, right? Frank grew up in California his family was a great family, but the neighborhood that he lived in and the people that surrounded him definitely were influenced by, by gangs and drugs and things like that. And so, he had to make some very real choices in his life of which way he wanted to go, and so he's definitely a success story on his street, in his neighborhood, in his city, leaving California, getting away from the things that could have turned out to be really bad for him, starting a career in law enforcement, which is complete opposite of where he was at as a teenager.
Yeah.
And then, just having a family and having, some very loving and wise and successful children, and so, I can say that Frank was at least alive to witness that, to witness all of our kids as adults and doing something with themselves and not ending up in the streets. He was able to witness 2 of his children get married, right, and start a family. And, so yes, he did die young, but he experienced so much of life that many didn't have an opportunity to. He was able to travel the world with me, and see places that people in his own neighborhood or his family would never have an opportunity to do. And so, I continue to honor who he was as a person by doing a lot of those things still, influencing the youth, traveling the world, and just helping people, because that's just the kind of person that he was.
Oh. Well, man, my goodness, that is just, I can't even, I just admire how you turn everything around. Like, I know that there's some people who are still sitting in that sadness, even years after, but you didn't choose to sit there. You chose to process it and then do something with it and then flip it around to continue honoring your husband, even though he's not physically here, but in so many other ways, he's still living through you and, making an impact around, in this world. And so I love that you gained so much more instead of looking at this loss that was so huge. And, you didn't let that take you. You didn't let that destroy you. That made you even more awesome than you were then. Like, just talking to you the other day on the phone, there are people who I've talked to who have had loss and they aren't anywhere, in the headspace that you are. And so, I mean, I'm proud of you that you did all of that, because I don't know if I could be that strong if my husband was to, if anything was to happen to him. So it's amazing that you were able to do something so much bigger than your, the loss of him physically.
Than myself. No, seriously. But let me just tell you though, and for everyone that is tuning in, that I was not prepared for this journey at all. And that when I went to grief recovery, when I went to that workshop, my intention was not to heal. My intention was to just be able to control the emotions that were out of control. So when I went into that workshop, I was still in the mindset of, I'm going to be sad for the rest of my life, and that nothing or no one could say to me could change that. I lost the love of my life, and I will just breathe every single day until the day that I die and I could be with him. And so walking in with that in my headspace, I remember introducing myself to everyone in the workshop. And I looked at my facilitator and I said to her, well, of course, you raise your hand and you're like, hi, my name is Darlene. I said, and I get that this is called a grief recovery method workshop, but I need to tell you that I'm not here to recover. And she kind of looked at me, and everyone kind of looked at me like, why the heck are you here? And I said, all I want to know is how you could help me control my emotions, because I am a person that is always in control. And the fact that I can't control my emotions is freaking me out. So that's it. Just teach me how to control my emotions. That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
She looked at me for a brief second, but her stare was not a bad stare. Like, it was such a loving, very comforting stare. And then she said, Darlene, I get that you feel like you're not ever going to recover. She said, but will you at least be open to the possibility? In that moment, walls came down, literally.
Oh.
And even though I said in my mind, not recovering, my walls came down and I said, you know what do I got to lose, right? She is an amazing person already by just acknowledging my feelings and knowing this is the space that I'm in. And then just asking me to at least be open to the possibility. Let me tell you that those 2.5 days of my life were so transformational. They were huge. It wasn't easy.
Wow.
It was emotionally draining, but I walked out of that place believing in hope again. I walked out of there seeing a small spark of light, and I walked out of there ready to journey into healing and self-discovery.
Yeah.
When I got off that airplane, because I didn't do it in Guam, when I got off that airplane and went back home, my family saw the look in my face completely different than when I left. And they said, what just happened? Like, we want to know. Like, everyone wanted to know what just happened to me, because they saw me leave and they were so scared for me because they've never seen me so dark and so isolated before, ever. And no one knew how to help me. And so when they saw that change, of course, it was definite relief, but big time curiosity. Like, we want to know what this method is. Like, it's magic, obviously, because look at what it did to you. Like, none of us could do that for you, and it will tell you, like I tell people, it is magic. When you embrace your emotions and you understand that grief is normal, and you don't give a crap what anyone else thinks, and you just focus on you and your healing journey, there is so much transformation and healing possibility in just that thought process.
Wow. So that, brings up my mission of why I even wanted to do these little interviews, because I know for me personally and my husband, it took the right person to say the right words in the right order for just a moment of like this huge life-changing movement in our, it's hard to explain, but a few years ago, we watched the documentary The Secret. I don't know if you've seen The Secret, but it's nothing new. The information that oh, you do? Okay. Well, the information that they share, it's nothing really new, but like the way that we heard it, it was just, it hit us in a way to where, like, like I said, it was life-changing. And so that's why I wanted to do these interviews, because I'm hoping that somebody is going to hear the words in the right order, said by the right person, and have that breakthrough like you did when she asked you, would you just be open? And so I'm really hoping, I'm not going to say hope, but I'm trying to get those words out. But I want us to be able to change the mindset, or change people's headspace so that they can do that and have that breakthrough by just listening to someone like you and listening to all the other women that we have lined up. And so I am so appreciative and honored that you would even want to be my first person to talk with me about these things. And I love that, like we talked about on the phone this weekend, how I didn't want this to be like an interview. I wanted this to be a conversation that everyone else could listen to. Yeah, I just want to have a conversation. And hopefully during one of these conversations, someone will be, inspired. So,
and I can't see if there's any comments or questions on the live. So if you see them or if anyone has anything, let me know.
Let me look. I see waving. I see Chantel Combs. She was asking what we were going to talk about. Let me scroll down. Hang on. If any of you have any questions, you are welcome to post them. She definitely would be more than willing to answer.
Right. Yes,
someone
for
called
sure.
you a good. Rye Brown said you're a good speaker.
Oh, thanks, Rye.
So Savannah paintings. Oh, Savannah. I love Savannah. She is my other online best friend. Remember I was telling you, I have all these online best friends, and they don't even know. But Savannah paintings, she had written, it's so hard to reply when people tell me that too. Her dad passed away a few years ago. And so I know that this video really resonates with her.
Yeah.
And she said, yes, girl, this is something that lifted weight off me. Oh, that's
yeah, that's amazing. And you know what, Savannah, I mean, I get that grief also is one of those things that people don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about in groups, right, or in the masses, and I get that. And so, if there's anything that you want to ask, like, outside of this live feed, I mean, feel free to message me on Facebook. Feel free to follow me. I post a lot of things about my journey and what I know about grief. Someone on, I think, LinkedIn called me the grief whisperer. I was like, well, I've never been referred to as that before, but that's kind of cool. I usually say, I am a grief recovery specialist by certification, but I do like to call myself a grief coach because it's not grief counseling and it's not grief therapy. I'm not a licensed clinician, but I am an expert in grief, and I will, say that with a lot of pride because, unfortunately, it had to be at the hands of my husband's death. But the journey that I'm on now is so much bigger than me. And the purpose that I live in life now is really, honestly, like a blessing. Like, I think that if I didn't have this tool to work with and be able to give back to people because of what I know now about grief, I think it would be so difficult for me to wake up every morning. And honestly, like the first year, it was difficult to wake up in the morning because that was our time. Like, we would wake up and go to the gym together. And if it wasn't the gym, we'd just sit and have coffee and watch CNN and, just have our alone time before we had to get ready and go to work, and so mornings were our time. And when I didn't have that anymore, I didn't want to get out of bed. I'm like, I had no motivation. Like, who was going to drink coffee with me? Who was going to go to the gym with me? Who was going to watch CNN with me? Who was going to kick my butt and say, it's time to go to work? Because he's like, come on, time. Like, what's going on? We got to get out the door. And it was one of those things where even if we weren't writing together, he made sure that I was leaving the same time as him because he knew that if I wasn't, I'd probably be an hour behind him because it took me so long to get ready. So he was like, nope. I'm not leaving till you leave. Hurry up. You got to get to work. And my work was like 2 minutes away, which is probably why I was always like, oh, I'll get there when I get there. And his work was a little bit further. He's like, no, you got to get there now. Like, he's like, he would always say, babe, on time is early. And, wait, what is it? Being late is on time and on time is early or something like that. So he was always the guy that would show up to work 30 minutes early, have coffee brewing for everybody. Sometimes he'd bring in breakfast for everyone. So everyone knew if Frank was working that day, guaranteed the coffee would be ready. So if Frank didn't show up, he'd be getting phone calls. Where you at, guy? Like, how come there's no coffee? He's like, oh, I'm sick today or whatever, So yeah, he was just that guy. And I wasn't. I was always fashionably late. For everything. I'm always late for everything. So it just got worse.
Me too.
But it got worse after he died. Again, just no motivation to participate in life, whatever that meant, right? And so just a huge, huge shift in a mindset and just having to deal with human emotion. But I got to tell you that if you are a griever and you're listening, you got to do the work on yourself. Like, you can't sit there and wait for time to heal your wounds. It's another myth of grief, because time will not heal it. It could get better in time, but think about all the triggers that you're going to have throughout your life if you've not done the work to heal your heart, right? And I'm not saying that the grief recovery method is necessarily has to be your choice. I will say that I know that it works on everybody that I've worked with. And I know that it can work on every single person that grieves, because grief is universal. But do what feels right for you, right? Whether it's to see a grief recovery specialist like me, whether it's to see a grief therapist or a grief counselor or a psychologist, whether it's to go to your church and be a part of a support group, whatever works for you, just know that you've got to do the work to heal your heart. The method that I teach in the grief recovery method is small action steps that we teach our grievers to do. And why I say it's magical is because you're going to come to me for a grieving event that may have happened a year ago, 2 years ago, 2 months ago, 20 years ago, but it's something that has been eating away at you, and you're going to come to me for that. But the magic is not just taking care of that particular grief, but imagine all of the losses that you've dealt with in life, that you can use this tool to help you heal all of those losses. Today, I am still working on all those losses from way back when I was a child that I had no idea. A lot of it I suppressed. A lot of it I didn't think was grief, and now I know what it is. And so I'm working through all of it, and I continue to use the method on myself, and not just teach it to others, you know. And it's amazing. It's amazing some of the things that come up. And, you know, I was just talking to my mom last night about something that I'm going to be coming out with on social media. And, you know, I'll just tell it to you guys now. April is the start of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And so for the whole month of April, my business partner, Ashley, and I will be talking about sexual assault. And not just sexual assault in general, or statistics, or, you know, tools to help people, but we're going to be sharing our own personal stories on sexual assault.
Oh, wow.
And mine started when I was a child, something that I suppressed for years and didn't even realize it. But why it came up is because I'm starting to do the work on myself again. And a lot of things that I've suppressed as a child are starting to now come up. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. It's very uncomfortable. But it's necessary, right? To be a whole human being and to be able to completely love yourself, which is the second part of my journey. Remember, we talked about my self-love. And part of that is really just embracing all of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, and really dealing with all of the crap that you've dealt with, right? So the older you are, the more crap you got in your life, right? Because you've lived it. We all have. We all have. We all have skeletons in our closet. We've all done things, or we've all experienced something in life that could be a tragedy, right? And sometimes as children, when you think back and you look at it and you're going, God, I was just a kid. I didn't know any better. But man, when you were there in that moment as a kid, that was a tragedy, right? So why are you going to minimize it, right? Own up to it. As a child, this is how I felt. Yeah, man, it hurt. It hurt a lot back then. And it sometimes can affect the behaviors and the attitudes that you have moving through life as an adult. Never realized that myself until I started to do the work on all my childhood losses. Yeah. So, you know, just something for people to think about. The magic of the grief recovery method is huge. It's life-changing, and it's something that you can use for the rest of your life. Hands down.
So you were saying, so for the month of April, you and Ashley are going to be sharing stories. Is this going to be on your podcast, Anchored Souls?
Yeah. So
you had sent me the link.
So we are going to. Right. We're going to be releasing a couple of episodes that definitely are going to be focused on sexual assault. Not sure that the whole month of April will have enough content that focuses on sexual assault, but definitely we are going to feature those ones in the month of April, the ones that we do have. And yeah, so if there's anyone on here that is listening and you've got a story that you want to share in a safe space, Ashley and I would love to hear from you. But in addition to that, it's just really going onto all of our social media platforms and just constantly sharing the things that we know about not only sexual assault in our own personal lives, but sharing what we now know about human emotion, about grief, about trauma, what we've done in our own lives to kind of get through a lot of that. And then giving people a space to be able to share or to contact us, right? And we can be there for them. We can be that heart with ears for them if they need it. But it's a crazy, it's a crazy place to be. Sexual assault is one of those things that is a big silencer. A lot of people don't talk about it.
Yeah. So for anyone who does want to continue following you or wants to reach out to you for a consultation, at the end of our little interview, non-interview, I'm going to post the link.
Our conversation.
Yes, our conversation. I'm going to post the link to all your stuff on the very bottom, the little funnel that I set up for you. So do you have anything else that you want to share before we log off for today? If you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in now before we log off. But any last words that you want to share?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did want to touch a little bit on the second part of my journey that I'm on, if we still have some time. Just
absolutely.
the self-love part. So, so part of my healing journey was having to figure out my identity, right? I talked a little bit about how I didn't know how to be me without Frank because, we spent our entire adult life together, or his entire adult life together. So just working through who Dar is after Frank. So everyone always called us Frank and Dar. Like that was like our name. It actually was our Facebook name for a long time. And it was a huge step for me to change that name to just Darlene. And I will tell you that it affected a lot of people as well. A lot of people were not happy that I changed it, and I get it, and I respected their opinions about it. But again, this was my journey, and it was something that I needed to do for me, right? And it wasn't letting go of Frank. It wasn't letting go of who we were as a couple, but it was me needing to take another step in my journey of who I am without him, his physical presence. And so my self-love journey really started off with a self-discovery journey. And a lot of that self-discovery, really had me diving into my confidence. Like I lacked a lot of confidence because Frank was here in my ear, right? Always with me, my biggest supporter, my number one fan. And when I didn't have him around, I questioned the decisions I would make in life. And, am I doing the right thing by my kids, by my grandkids? Am I a good person? Like I didn't have him there anymore to validate that. And what I realized through my self-discovery was that another human being should not validate your worth, even if it is your partner, right? Your other half, as we call it. We need to make sure that we are moving through life, loving who we are, and validating our own worth. And so as I started to understand that and do the work on myself in regards to finding my identity, I realized that in order to discover or be transformed into self-love, that there's 4 parts to who we are. That is our physical body, which is us, right? Our mental body, which is everything that we have up here in our head, and that's a powerful one because we really operate a lot in our head. But the one that we don't, or the two that we don't put a lot of focus on is our emotional body, which is everything that we feel. And a lot of times we try to intellectualize how we feel, and so we disregard the human emotion. So the human emotion part for me was not hard because I was already doing the work through grief recovery. But for a lot of people, that's where they lack. And then the last one is the spiritual body. So mindfulness and believing in a higher power, whatever that is for you, right? Whether it's God or Buddha or, Jehovah, whatever it is, the universe, but believing in a higher being and just having faith, right? Faith is believing without seeing. And so having faith in your journey, in yourself, even though you can't see what the road looks like ahead, is huge in being able to build up or strengthen the spiritual body of yourself. And for me, the spiritual body was huge because it allowed me then to connect with Frank on a very spiritual level. And so that relationship that I now have with him is no longer physical, but it's definitely spiritual. And I embrace that, and I am blessed to have it. And regardless of what anyone believes, right? That's what I believe. And he drops me signs all the time. And I will tell you that if I was stuck in my grief, there was no way that we would have been able to connect in a spiritual manner like the way we do now. So it's amazing.
Right.
Yeah. So self-love is something that a lot of people may venture into, and a lot of people focus more on the self-care. But there's so much more to self-love than just self-care. And so I have a coaching program now just based on what I taught myself, and teaching others how to get to that place of self-love, because you then will find your purpose in life, right? If you find true love in yourself, you'll be able to figure out what it is that you're passionate about, what is your purpose, and then the love that you exude, man, the whole world just sees it. The light around you is just so amazing, right? Well, you talked about it before on the phone, law of attraction. I was like, Christina, why did you message me out of all the women on that? No offense, ladies, if you're listening, but, Christina and I, we had this attraction going on. And, it was love at first sight.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm so glad to have met you, because, I know that there are people in my life who doubt the whole law of attraction, The Secret, all of that stuff. Yeah. But I'm telling you guys, once you let go of all this other shit that does not do anything for you at all.
Absolutely.
The power of how all of that stuff works, when you make room for it in your life, it is going to blow you away. Like, I was looking at my posts even just a month ago. So a month ago, I reactivated this account because I was like, okay, I need to do something different. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to, I need to get on a different path than what I'm doing now, because I have babies I got to take care of, and eventually I got to get back into work and all that stuff. And so once I made that decision of, okay, I am going to stop what I'm doing over here, and I'm going to make the decision to take off and do whatever the fuck I want to do. And I'm going to, I'm going to make it work on my own terms, but I refuse to get a 9-to-5 job. I'm sorry, babe, if you're listening. I know you're around here somewhere, but I can't. It does not, it doesn't sit well with me, because if I commit to a 9-to-5 job to somebody else, I'm taking away from my kids who need me way more than a 9-to-5 job. So when I made that decision last month, all of these things started coming my way. All of the right people started coming my way. Savannah, who keeps putting the little hearts on here, she was my first person that I connected with after I reactivated this account. And so we have these conversations where we're like, holy cow, it's like, I swear I've met you in another life. And so, like, with you and Trisha, who's probably listening, and Amelia, like, I am like attracting the most badass women. Like, it's unstoppable. Like, that power of
it's amazing,
or whatever. I don't know what to call it, but it has totally replaced all this other stuff that I was holding on to for whatever reason. When I let that go, this past month just blew my mind. I got so much more, drawn into my life once I was like, okay, I'm making this decision to go higher. And so then all these situations started happening. I was meeting all these people and attracting all these people. And even this little project, honestly, like this was an accident. Like I didn't even really,
You got so much traction on that group.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I am still trying to get in touch with everybody. I have like all of these names. You probably can't even see, but I have like 7 pages of women that I
That is
have to get
awesome.
back to. Yes.
Right.
And so like this magical accident is turning into something way more and way bigger. And
Right.
so whenever I was talking to you about whenever I was driving in San Antonio with my husband and I started crying, he's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? He's like, tell me, are you okay? What do I need to do? Because he's driving in traffic and I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And that's when I had to put the phone in the glove box when I told you about that.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
He's like, what is the matter with you? Just tell me if you're fine. And I'm like, I'm okay. I feel like this is a really big deal. And I think I'm just hungry. Just feed me. I think I'm hungry. So we went and got Mongolian barbecue or something. We've never gone there before. But yeah, it was just, I just feel like I really feel it in my gut this time. Like the whole, the way that everything's working with the universe or God or however you want to put it, like it's way bigger than me right now. And so I'm really excited to get to know you and to have you be a part of it. And, yeah.
I think there's a whole thing about finding your purpose, because usually like in fact everyone that I've spoken to that are journeying down that path, it's always a purpose that's greater than them, right? And once you discover that and you immerse yourself in it, that attraction to people that are like-minded or that are going to help to strengthen that purpose or that journey that you're on, it's endless, right? It's the possibilities are endless. And look at 7 pages of women. That tells you that there are so many women in the world that are out there willing to share their hearts and their passion with others and to serve in a way that, we've never even had an opportunity to before the internet, before social media. And I mean, so what you're doing here, Christina, is so amazing. Honestly, like you've got a good thing going here by uplifting others, because honestly, like just by you doing that, you're gonna be surrounded with so much blessings in your own life, because you're doing such great things to help bring and merge all of these amazing hearts together to help other people. So kudos to you on that.
Well, I'm really excited to have you be a part of it, and for us to be connected now through this little project of mine. I'm so excited to see where it's gonna go. And I cracked myself up because I was like, so Amelia, who I don't know if she's still on here, but so she helps me kind of reword my sentences. So instead of saying things like, oh, I might do this, or I think I want to, I started saying, I'm going to.
I'm going to, right? I am, right? I believe. I don't know if
you can hear my baby crying, but yes. And so whenever I made that post last Friday about it, I was like, I am going to do this podcast. And honestly, I didn't even know what the heck a podcast was. Like, I knew what a podcast kind of was, but I didn't really know what all that meant. But I'm glad that my mouth just, it led me to this point where like, holy cow, I'm going to do a podcast now. And, it's just funny to me because I really didn't think I would be doing that, because I'm not like an attention person. I don't like to really talk in front of people. But this kind of thing, like it brings so much joy to talk about it with others and to have these conversations with other people to where like they start thinking just a tad bit differently, because they're used to all this other type of talk of like, well, you need to go and pay your bills and you need to concentrate on your family and you need to do this. And so,
but even the fact that you're uplifting all of these different coaches, like when I was looking at all the comments, right, just on that one post that you did and all the different talents or the different niches that these coaches have, I was like, oh, There's such a coach. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I'm thinking, where have these guys been? So the fact that you are going to be having conversations with all of these different women that have different niches that are so specific to certain things that people may need in this world is just amazing, right? It's not just your regular life coach or your regular health coach. Like some of these ladies are really like journeying into something so specific. Like with me, I'm a life coach and a health coach, but my niche is self-love. Why? Because that was my personal story. And when you relate what you're doing with a personal story, it really does already add credibility to what you're doing, right? It's like, why are you going to teach someone something that you're not even practicing yourself? You know, and that's why grief recovery is so amazing to me. And that's why I continue to do the work. So I'm going, I'm not just out here teaching you, and I just didn't do it once. I'm doing it over and over again. I worked on the biggest significant loss of my life, which was my husband, but all those other losses back when I was a kid, and the fact that I'm now realizing that they have affected how I behaved, how I think, how I treat people, that's huge, because now I can shift my mindset and change those beliefs because I'm now working on healing those pieces in my life that I've suppressed for so long, right? And suppression only stays really underneath the surface, and you react to those events in other ways. And you sometimes you realize it, sometimes you don't. But when you get to the core and you have those aha moments, then that's an opportunity to truly heal from the inside out. And it's amazing. So however people do it, you're going to bring on experts here that are going to help in those ways as well too, right? So it's really exciting.
Yes, because everyone, you know, like you said, everyone has a different aspect and a different story, and so there's going to be so much content to share. But you know, I really, it sounds like the whole self-love thing is kind of like your little tool that you keep in the toolbox. Because like you said previously, like as you get older, there's so much more that you're going to have to deal with constantly. There's always going to be loss. There's always going to be some kind of hiccup. So like the self-love thing is kind of like your tool so that you can get through all of that every time something happens, because you're going to feel real great, and then you're going to get kicked down by some other event. And so, you know, self-love is you know, it's real important to kind of grasp that, so that no matter what it is that happens, you're able to go and deal with all of that.
So the influence around you, especially the negative ones, won't bring you down if you truly have transformed into self-love, right? You're not going to be looking at your Facebook profile or your Instagram profile and be beat down because people didn't like this certain post that you did, right? I mean, when you do things with intention and you know that you're going to impact someone, you know, you just got to be comfortable with knowing that your message may impact one person, but that one person, it could be life-changing. It could save their life, right? So forget about the million likes that you want. If you could save one person's life just by your post, man, you did an amazing thing, right? So stop worrying about the numbers and just focus on the intention of the post, right? And that's how I look at it, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that too, because I mean, physically, when you look at one person, it isn't one person though, because that person goes out and about in the world and they touch other people's lives. So even if we were to change one person's mind on here, we're not really just changing one person's mind. It's like a domino effect or a ripple effect that they carry on for the rest of their lives. And, you know, so I totally agree. You know, even if it's
they
just one
share
person,
with others.
So it's just, it isn't just one person, but if we can have that much of an impact, then they can do so much for everybody else. Keep that going.
But you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself first, right? I mean, I think that's the important. That's, if there's anything that you want to take away from today's, you know, live feed, from anything that I've said, because it refers to both losses in your life, grief, as we call it, or self-love, right? Whatever it is, you've got to focus on you first, because you can definitely be there and be present and want to be that person that is always out there helping others. But if you're forgetting about you and taking care of you, the quality that you're going to be giving to others is going to be small compared to the impact that you can make if you truly take care of yourself. And what I mean by that is like truly loving yourself from the inside out, right? That self-love takes you to so many heights, and it does allow you to love every human being in a way that you never thought you could, because you loved yourself first. Right? So you can't give love if you don't love you first. And I truly believe that. And you and I know as moms, right, that's one of the things
It's
as moms is
hard.
we have to take care of our kids. We're going to put our kids first. We're going to put our husbands first. And then we forget about ourselves. Like I have so many friends that are like, how do you look like that? Like we're the same age, and how do you look like that? And I said, well, for starters, I have to take care of myself. And some of the reason why, like my why, a lot of it, and I think I put in one of my posts, my why is my grandchildren. I got to keep up with these little human beings. Like they got so much energy. And if I don't physically take care of myself, holy crap, I will gas out too soon, right? To be able to run around with these guys. But they're a big part of my why. But another part of my why is helping others heal. And I can't do that from a very deep place if I still have so much inside that I'm working through, because then it triggers all the time when I'm dealing with others. And so, and I'll be honest, I didn't always do the work on myself when I first got certified. It was get certified, took care of my grief with Frank, and now let's go help the world. And as I started to do that, I started to have these triggers whenever I would work with clients that had certain relatable losses in their life. And I went, there's something going on here. I still have a lot of junk in my trunk. So I need to fix that. And so I've started to do the work on myself again with another grief recovery specialist, Robin, who's just amazing. And we are both, coming to so many revelations in our lives. And it's just validating to us more and more and more how effective the grief recovery method is to work through all of the different losses. So it's just amazing, right?
The whole, you had brought up as moms, it is so hard for us to break out of that habit of, okay, I got to take care of me first, because constantly it's, I got to do things for everybody else and then I'll come last, maybe I'll get to eat later on tonight, but everybody else, I need to take care of everybody else. I need to make sure everyone else is okay. And so that had been, an obstacle in my head, because I'm like, I can't bring myself to me, it felt selfish to focus on me, but I know that it's not selfish to have self-love. And one of the things that someone had said to me, one of my online best friends now that I have, she had said, she made me look at it this way. She was like, so what do they tell you when you get on an airplane? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't really been on a plane. So I was like, fasten your seatbelt. And she's like, well, they talk about the oxygen masks.
And you got to put it on yourself first.
Yeah. So if you're holding your baby on your lap,
right.
My natural instinct would be to give the baby the oxygen mask first, right? But she's like,
you got to put it on yourself
she said,
first.
no, you can't. Yeah, she says, you have to put the oxygen mask on first, because if you don't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of your baby. And so when she made it like a life or death situation, like, holy shit, my kid can't breathe,
That's funny. That's funny that she says that, because we use that same analogy in grief recovery.
Oh,
which
really?
is super cool that she uses that. But it makes perfect sense. And I think that
Yeah.
anyone that has rode on an airplane and listened to the flight attendants over and over again through their safety briefings, you know this, right? It is extremely important to put that oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on your child. And that goes with everything in life. Everything. Like if you don't take care of yourself first, you're only half giving to your kids. And people don't realize that. We get drained out as moms, and then we get short with our kids, or we're
Yes.
resentful of our husbands
Yes.
because we think that they're not helping us enough, right? Men don't get it. Okay, we
Yeah.
just got to ask them, or we got to tell them, I need help, right? And that was the other thing that I tell a lot of people too that work with me is, why are you afraid to ask for help? Are you a super person? You're not. You're not you're not a superhero. You're not a super mom. Like, don't think that you have to do everything by yourself. Gotta learn to ask for help when you need it. So many people around you
Yeah.
that want to support you, but they don't read minds, right? So just ask for the help. And I am a true testament of one of those people that never asked for help, because I thought I was a superhuman and I thought I could do it all by myself. But guess what? I did get run down. And man, the attitudes that I would give others when I was so run down was horrible. I treated people bad,
Yeah.
but it was because I wasn't taking care of myself, and I realized that. So yeah, there's so much you can do for others when you take care of yourself first. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely learning that right now. I'm trying to process all of, that new habit of, okay, I'm going to take care of myself and that kind of thing. That's how I ended up doing aerial yoga because,
Yeah.
there can only be one person on that swing anyway. So I'm like, okay, this is my mom time, or this is not my mom time. It's my me time. And
Yeah.
so,
Right.
I'm learning that whole self-discovery,
Yeah.
self-love thing.
Good. Good.
well, okay. So, it is almost 3 o'clock. We've been on here for almost an hour and a half already. Can
Wow.
you believe
Nice.
that? I
Yeah.
know. I mean, that's what how it happens when you have a good conversation, right?
For sure.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty. Well, I am going to close this, and like I said,
Right.
for anyone who's still on it, I'm going to put some links later on. Hopefully, like within the next 30 minutes, I'll put that link on the bottom.
Okay.
So if any of you want to reach out to Darlene, she's offering free consultations.
Yes.
And is there anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Just I just want to say thank you to you. Like, super honored to be on your show. Be the first one, in fact. So it's such an honor to be here. I think you're doing an amazing thing with others. I would love to connect with everyone that was watching or will watch later the recorded feed. And just know that I am always open to being a heart with ears. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And hang on. No, come here and say hi. Come here. My brother-in-law is here for my husband's birthday, so I wanted to say hi to everybody.
Hello.
Say, this is my
Hi. Birthday surprise.
birthday surprise. Yeah, Josh didn't know, so I kind of, not that I forgot about you, but I was like, who is that man at the door? I was like, holy cow. Anyway, alrighty, so we are going to log off to do some birthday stuff, but thank you so much for your time.
Awesome.
And thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. And if there's anything that I can do for you to help spread what you have going on, just let me know. And I look forward to our relationship and to see where we're going to,
for sure.
What we're going to do. So, all right. Well,
thank you so much for having me. Yes, you too. Happy birthday to your husband.
I'll let him know.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.
Okay.